let me put up the warning first. The warning label here is the difference between what we say people of proximity versus people of peace.
Welcome to the D3 Discipleship Podcast, a podcast about the language and tools that help to create a culture of intentional discipleship in your church. We are excited that you're joining us today and hope that you enjoy what you hear.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the D3 Discipleship Podcast. And alongside me is my co-host, Katie Ketzner.
Virtually
once again.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, today...
We started our new rhythm where we're FaceTiming and talking.
That's right. And today it's needed because there's snow everywhere and all those things. And you were just saying that, like, you went out in it and did a workout and all the things. Look at you, crushing 2024.
I also said that I was not excited about it, and it was only partially by choice. Somewhat, I was also dragged by my husband, who is very much a go-getter. And
yeah.
So,
well,
that's good to have sometimes, because
right.
I would definitely not be working out at all if it weren't for him. But I need it.
Yeah. Well, I have a gym in my garage, and I didn't even make it there this morning. So good for you. Good for you. I have to go through a door, and I didn't make it. So there's that.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I've made it 8 days or 9 days, whatever it is. Yeah. Look at me.
Have you worked out all the other days?
Not all of them, but I've been doing it. Yeah. I took a very much hiatus for Christmas till New Year's, a couple weeks there. And so, yeah. In fact, I did, this may be more information than anybody wants to know, but I did squats on Monday, and I could barely walk Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning. So it was like, oh, welcome back. Yes, ouch.
Oh, so let me tell you, I've been off for a year.
Yeah.
I've not worked out for a year.
Yeah.
And so the first time we went back, it was awful. Like, I cried a little bit because I could not do what I used to do.
Right.
And it was frustrating. I'm like, my husband's like, can you go a little lower in your squat? And I'm like, no, I can't.
I've had a baby since I've done this. Leave me alone.
Everything is so hard right now. And I feel like I'm starting out brand new. And it's frustrating, but also got to give myself grace, because I'm like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Oh, those welcome back weeks are the worst. Like, man, you feel it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, have. Oh, sorry. What? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Oh.
No. I was going to say, but this is, not a workout podcast.
So yeah. Well,
we'll get into discipleship.
Yeah, we could talk about, spiritual and physical and all those things and how they all go together. Anyway. Over the past several weeks, we had a break there for Christmas, obviously, but for the past several weeks, we've been talking about the why in certain areas of our pathway. And so today we're going to hit the why of people of peace and deployment. I think one of the most exciting parts of the discipling journey, right? Like, yes, we get to be transformed and all that fun stuff, but then we send you out to do it. And so how about we talk about that today?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Let's jump in.
Okay, so how do you know you're ready for deployment?
Whoa, yeah. Man, you just took it right to the jugular there. Okay.
I'm trying to start from the beginning. So last time we talked about competency.
Yes, we did.
And like reteaching tools and making sure that your people are knowledgeable.
Correct.
And have the same language going on.
Right.
And so they've got that down pat, and now you're like, boom, we're ready.
Yep.
What's next?
Yeah. So I would say...
Well, did I just answer my own question then?
You kind of did, but that's okay. We can add to it. Yeah. So again, when are we ready to deploy and why? So I think you understand that everybody in your group understands. They know what they're talking about. They're able to reteach that to somebody else, and they feel equipped and ready to go. Right. And I think that's the great point of getting to go. Now, I will say this. I think hesitancy that some people have is like, I don't know if I am ready. I don't know if I can do this. Well, I think there is a piece that, like, we've got to understand the Holy Spirit is in this. The Holy Spirit is going to help you And then also there's resources and tools behind that can also help you, right? So
listen, you have to keep that in mind every single day, because
exactly.
I always feel that way.
Yeah.
There's not a day that I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm killing it. Let's do this. Like, let me go tell people what to do.
Right. Yeah. And, and so I think even like in that discipling journey, I think there's two pieces to it. Like, we get to daily use those tools to remind ourselves, but then as we're leading a group, we get to go back and go, hey, these are tools that I can use in other conversations with other people. And as you're leading a group, it's like, man, yeah, I don't know if I feel 100% equipped to share this with you, but I'm going to share it. Here it is. Here's some good stuff. Yeah. So I'd say that's when somebody's ready to go. Yeah.
Okay. So you decide, you figure out that they're ready to go. And so the next step is?
Yeah. So on the, bottom left of our pathway, if we have the square, is people of peace. And so the idea there is that they are looking for their next. I was telling somebody even in a meeting I had before this, like, I love JT English's quote in his book, Deeper Discipleship. It's, you haven't truly discipled someone till they've discipled somebody else. And so it's this idea of, hey, I've given you this thing, cool, but now I want you to go and give that to somebody else, right? Kind of that 2 Timothy 2:2 concept of like, passing this on to faithful men or women, right? Like passing it down and making it a generational thing. So with that, like, we hope that people are stepping back into discipleship. What I look for in a deployment party for people who are ready to be deployed is, do you have a next step in place? Like, okay, what are your plans coming out of discipleship? And do you have a plan? Or is it just like, hey, I learned these things, now I'm going to go sit on the bench? And so again, we've talked about before, like, what are those steps? Those steps are that you are leading at a group. That's the ideal one, but we understand that not everybody can do that because of seasons of life. But then maybe it's, you're going to lead a city group and you're going to begin to look for people of peace there, or you're going to serve in a ministry and try to find some people of peace there. And then the big one, of helping Pastor Pete in the neighborhood area and like launching a neighborhood out of your house or something along those lines. But those are the 4 places that we're looking for when people are deployed, but also in this area of people of peace. Like, do you have a plan to look for people of peace besides just showing up on a Sunday morning and sitting in the lobby and going, oh, I think there's a person of peace, right? And pointing somebody out. So, yeah.
That's good, because I think back to when I was deployed. It did feel like okay, now what? Like a free fall kind of thing. Like, it's overwhelming to try to find people. And like, I don't know the avenues to find people. And what do you do if you do think that this was not set up in place when I was being deployed. And I think this is great. Like, we've come leaps and bounds, honestly, in our discipleship efforts. And I mean, thanks to you guys, the playbook, the plans, like, it makes it very smooth and effortless.
Effortless. Yes, exactly. Yes.
To be able to go and do discipleship.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Well, and I think what's even been fun, like watching you, is that you took that play and ran with it, right? So you did a city group with Shyla, right? And then from that city group, you guys have now started discipling, and you're rocking and rolling with that. Like,
and I don't love leading in general. Like, it just feels
you're still working on that. I get it. I get it. Yep.
Feels counterintuitive for myself, but I know that I can do it.
Yep.
At least that's a step that I've taken. Like, I know that I'm able.
Yep.
I'm not always comfortable inside, but I can do it.
There you go.
But leading that city group, it was a good first step for me, because you're getting used to these people already.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like a dry run leadership. I mean, you are leading, but it's, I don't know, less, what's the word? Less pressure, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I recommend it if anyone's trying to figure out what to do. I think that's a good next step.
Sure. So real quick, a side note, where and how is your discipling going? Like, where are you guys at?
So we just finished doing the abiding tools.
Yep. Boom.
And so we kind of took a break over the holidays.
Sure.
And we're starting it back up tonight, but tonight is our prayer and praise.
Yep.
So we're going to prayer and praise. And so we're starting back up in, sessions next week. And I think we're going to do the 8 arenas.
Boom. Nice.
Which, I mean, again, this is awesome because, like, I had no idea, like, what the next step would be. And then we just have so much in place. And you know what? I think it's good to be reminded because even me, I do the podcast, I have the book, all of these things. And I'm like, I still felt like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
I was talking to Brandy and she just reminded me of our own. She's like, well, why don't you do this? I'm like, yeah.
Why don't you go back and listen to episode 47? No, I'm just kidding. That's awesome. That's cool.
But yeah, that's what we're going to start next week.
Well, and I think what's been fun is to see, like, you've taken the model and you've run with it and done exactly what we hope everybody does. So way to go.
Trying.
The gold star, high five, all the things. Yeah. Way to go.
And I'm an example, like, look, you don't have to be 100%.
But you are 100%. You just don't give yourself that 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, I'm only 70%. No, you're 100%. You got it. You're doing it. You're rocking it.
I'm doing it.
Way to go. Boom. Oh, and have a baby in the middle of all that. Let's go.
Yeah. All the things.
Yeah. Some encouragement there for you. You're doing a great job. Way to go.
Thank you.
Yes.
So the next step is we're having them find people of peace. How do you explain that to them? Like, how do you explain a person of peace, and also how do you guide them in finding people of peace? Like, you're telling them where to find people of peace, but what are you telling them to look for?
Yeah. So again, in those avenues, I think in looking for our people of peace there's a couple things, right? So let me put up the warning first. The warning label here is the difference between what we say people of proximity versus people of peace, right? So just because you're hanging around with this person and, man, you get each other and things are good, doesn't mean that that's a person you're supposed to disciple. And I think that's something to be cautioned, right? I think some people come in with a good friendship, but it may not be a discipling relationship. And thus they're going to struggle in the midst of their group. However, there are people that can be your friends that can also be people of peace. So I know it kind of seems very gray, but it's like, hey, we need to make sure that this is a person of peace. In other words, the way I say it is this, and I think Pastor Matt says it like this as well, is like they have big ears for you, right? Like if they're seeking spiritual counsel and guidance and you suggest something to them, they don't go and do the opposite. They take your information that you're giving them, which if you've been discipled, then you have information to give them, right? You have hopefully a scriptural background or a scriptural thing that you're giving them to point them in the right direction. And so, and when we look at people of peace in Scripture, there's really this concept of like this is a relationship that can be reciprocal. It can go back and forth of offering wisdom and accountability. The other piece is like, as you're meeting with that person in the beginning, right? Like if you're sitting in that city group and they're always resistant to the things you're saying, then they're probably not a person of peace. Or if just like, I think sometimes it's a natural thing of like, man, we are not jiving. Like there is just a tension or a rub for whatever reason. That's going to be a long 8 to 12 months or more with that person. It's just going to always be hard. So I think it is helpful to figure that out on the front end, right? So yeah. So that's a couple tips there, I think.
Yeah. So what we did in our city group, Cheryl and I were looking for people of peace, obviously.
Yeah.
And like your example, you're not gonna go with proximity. So I could have taken everybody in that city group and been like, hey, let's start this group.
Yeah.
But what we found was there were some that, what stood out to me was there was a group of girls who stuck around after the city group was over to talk, which, I mean, it could be friendship. It could be like similar personalities just wanting to hang out, but it was pretty consistent. And it felt like this group were also the ones who did our homework every week. Because we made sure to put in a little bit of homework to the city groups just so we could see, like, well, you're going to be doing homework in our group. So let's see if you can start with it now and like actually do it. Because I don't want to get into city group or discipleship and then you just flake out all the time.
Right.
So that's one thing that we looked for. But you're right. Like, we did have a couple of other people who they were in that group also, but they didn't end up joining. And I don't know, you just kind of gotta go with your gut sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we had a girl, like, seemed gung-ho. She would do the homework. There was just a little piece that was missing.
Yep.
And it was like leading up to it is like when we kind of felt that.
Yeah.
At first I was like, yes. And then just kind of as time went on, there was a little gut feeling that was just like, I don't know if it's timing or if she's just not cut out for it or not meant for us.
Right.
But like, there's something not feeling quite right. Not that she was a bad person.
Yeah.
She's very lovely.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know if that's going to work out. And actually, with prayer, like both sides praying about it, she actually came to us and was like, hey, like, I don't think I can be in this group right in this season. And we're like, inwardly, we're like, I think we agree. Like, that's what we were feeling also.
Right. See, 100% all-star. You are right. Like, just hearing the thing of like, hey, let's both pray about this. Like, I wrote that down as you were talking. Like, prayer and trusting the Holy Spirit is also a very big piece of your people of peace. And just, again, praying through that. And I think some people discredit or discount how much prayer can really play out in that. Like, I think the Lord will show you this is a person, this is not a person, and you may not fully understand the reasons for that person being the person or not being the person, but at the same time, you're trusting that your prayers are being heard and then being revealed to you. Like, here it is. This is the step you need to take with this particular person. And, I had somebody in one of my groups ask me, do you think anybody and everybody are ready to be discipled? And I think the answer to that is yes. Like, I think everybody is ready to be discipled, but it's a matter of who they're discipled by. And so I think, yes, anybody can be discipled. Well, let me put some caveats to that. Are they ready to be discipled? Maybe not.
Okay.
But
I was like, are we sure?
Yeah. But at some point, I think they could be discipled, but it may be a certain person that it requires to disciple them, if that makes sense.
For sure.
And so I don't know that we have to feel like or put ourselves in this corner of I have to disciple everyone. Like, I love how you said I have this city group of people and I could easily take everybody in, but they weren't all people of peace. Like, they weren't all even for you and Shyla to disciple, right? And so, and I think we got to be okay with that. Like, because I think sometimes on the flip side of that, we can get this savior complex of I am going to disciple everybody, and or I'm even going to fix them, right? And we get into this fix it mentality instead of just pointing them towards Jesus and allowing Jesus to do the fixing. So,
or it could just be like, oh my gosh, I got to start a group. I need people.
Yes.
Like, you'll do.
Yeah. And you're just grabbing left and right, and you're like, okay, I did my group. I've got my group, and then it's a terrible experience. Yeah.
Well, along with, you said prayer, but I think also part of it for us that worked in our favor was time.
Yeah.
Because like I said, right away, I was like, oh yeah, she's good. And even right away, she was like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I think we had the city group, and I think, I'm trying to remember, but I think it played out to, it ended in May. And so we have that natural summer break before we start back up in the fall.
Yeah.
And so after the city group, right as it was ending, we invited our people in and said, we went over the covenant. We were like, this is what we're going to expect of you. Pray about it over the summer.
Yeah.
And over the summer, we're going to have some hangouts. We're going to get together, have some fun times. And then, in the fall, we'll come together at the end, and this is when you'll sign it if you truly want to be part of the group. If, you prayed about it and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that time really allowed things to shift or sift her out.
Yeah.
Not in a rude way, again.
Right.
But like it just allowed things to shake out by themselves.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. I think about this may be a weird illustration, but I think about running gravel through different filters to get down to the tiniest of gravels, right? So you have the big rocks at the top filter that are the obvious, and then you have the next shake and it's like, oh, there's a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller, and then you get down to the tiny bitty gravel. Maybe that's my landscaping background. But anyway, you have these different filters that you're running through to get down to the core or the smallest pieces of gravel. And so I think that's kind of how you can treat people of peace is like, hey, I have these general people that I know are not people of peace. I have these people that I need to get to know a little better to see if they're a person of peace. And then there's these other ones that as I'm sifting, it's a great word. As I'm sifting that, these are the people that I know are going to be there. And they're the people that are supposed to be in that group. Yeah.
So I love that we are starting to do this while they're still in their own discipleship group.
Yeah.
Because this will take time, and I think it takes guidance from knowledgeable people also.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone to, my old leader, and I was like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Yeah. And then she's able to be like, okay, well, think about this.
Yep.
And so I think giving them that time in that safe space where it's not super rushed, but you're helping them, you're guiding them.
Yeah.
And also giving them time to practice it. I think that's great.
Yep. Yeah, because what used to happen, right, was people would get out of the group or be deployed, and then it was like, hey, you need to find people of peace, and then they're like, I don't know where to start, right? And so it kind of gives you a little bit longer runway, and again, having a place to go, I think, has been helpful as well. These are some ponds you can fish in, if you will.
Yeah,
has been super helpful as well.
Night and day difference between the first group I led and then now this one. Just trying to find people.
Yeah.
Because I think it took me almost a year after I was deployed to start a group. And part of that is just because, it's me and I drag my heels.
Sure.
But also it was a hard time trying to find people.
Yeah.
But I think I'm so grateful for the avenues that we have, the ponds that we have.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
Right.
And also I don't know if everybody's campus discipling leader does this, but ours, we get a newsletter that's sent out, I think maybe monthly.
Yep.
And it has a list that says, here are the people that need a co-leader.
Yep.
Here are the people that need to be led or who are interested in discipleship.
Right.
So I think it's a layup. You're like, oh,
yeah,
here are people that I know need it.
Yeah. They're hungry for it.
I can get to work.
Yep. Boom.
Okay. So we help them kind of find people of peace. Yep. And do they have to have a group ready to go before they're deployed?
That's a great question. So no, but they do need to have a plan, right? And so I think, again, as we just talked about a minute ago, what was happening was people were getting out of a group, didn't have a plan or a runway to go on or a place to go, and then they just kind of fizzled out, right? The firecracker had been burned, and now they were just kind of what's next? So all that to say, no, but what we are looking for is a plan. So hopefully there is a plan of now a place of leadership, I'm helping right? Move the church forward. I'm helping serve in a capacity. So again, the ideal is, yes, you're going to lead a group and you kind of have a time of when. Taking a season of rest coming out of that is awesome, like a great idea. But also like saying, hey, I'm going to take a 2-year break, probably not the best idea. And so it's like, okay, what's the balance of that? Well, take a quarter off, like a couple, 3 months, 90 days, get yourself back together and get ready to go. But those are what we're looking for. So, hey, you can help with the city group. You can help with this, that, or the other. So,
right. If you're going the city group route, it was helpful for me because, listen, I can, again, drag my heels with the best of them. So, but knowing that here we are doing the city group kickoff on this date, like our whole church was doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, like here's my rest, but also like I know when it has to be done. Like it has to go. And ready or not. I mean, but get ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's go.
Date on the calendar, I think, is the hope, right? Of something for sure. Yeah. And what was cool was I just got to do a deployment in Edgerton a couple weeks ago, and 2 of the guys are sitting there going, "Yep, we've got our people of peace. We're ready to go. We just need to be deployed." And so, like, to have that ready to go is the ideal. Does the ideal always happen? No, because we don't live in an ideal world. But, again, having a plan, next step, that's what we're looking for.
All right. So they're ready to go. And so we have the deployment party. And it is like a party, man. Make it a party. Make it fun. Like you have spent 12 more than likely plus months together. Like you've gone through a lot. I don't know that I have done. So we have deployment party reps that will come in and kind of ask questions and just affirm the leaders basically. And these folks are ready to go, right? It's not a test in any way, but it's like an affirmation. And so, like I said, I got to go do that for Edgerton a couple of weeks ago, but we have deployment party reps that come in. But I don't know that I have done one that has not had tears, right? Like, and so that's a good party.
It's a fun thing, right? Because you're parting with these people in a sense that you have given a lot to, and you probably wrestled through a lot and worked through a lot, and you had your moments where you hated each other and you had your moments where you loved each other, right? And so it's kind of an emotional time. Like there's just a lot that is lifted and some cool things like that. But again, make it a party. Make it so. For example, Edgerton. A couple of weeks ago, what they did was they had a guy that was amazing at smoking meat. So he cooked up a brisket for them, and then all the guys brought sides, and it was like a dinner beforehand, hanging out, just shooting the bull, doing all the things, right? And then from there, I got the opportunity to ask the questions and walk through that, and then it ends with this moment of like sending, right? So the leaders are praying over the guys, and they're being sent or deployed out to go and do what's next. And so, again, it's a fun time. Couple cautions in that, I would say, would be like choose the place that you're doing that carefully, right? So they had originally mentioned, I'm not putting them on blast, but like I'm just giving you the real world example. They had the conversation of doing it in a restaurant, and I think that's a little bit of a too loud of an environment to do your deployment party. Now, if you go out to eat first and then you come back and do the deployment party and you make like a whole night out of it, cool. Like do that. Absolutely. That's fun. But to have like your actual questions and things like that, like, because here's what we're asking is like, what were moments of transformation? Like that may be hard to share in a restaurant or a loud space. So again, pick a place that's quiet and good, but you can also celebrate together and have a good time. So,
so you said it's a celebration, but also you're having a conversation to confirm that they are indeed ready to go.
Yeah.
So, and you said it's not like a test.
Right.
So how do you get that confirmation, or how's the rep going to get confirmation without it being test-like? Because are you going through the list and asking questions of each person? Are you getting a general idea? Like, how is this supposed to look?
Yeah. So I think kind of that general idea of like, basically the leaders should be in a place that they know, my group's ready to go. I just want, basically the point of the deployment party rep is to be a second set of eyes that goes, yes, these folks are ready to go. right? And so the questions that we ask are really kind of, some of them are checkbox E, if you will. I don't know if that's a word, but I made it. So like, hey, we check this box if we did an out, right? Like that's a practical one. We did the checkbox of everybody shared their story. Like those things are kind of the practical. And then the transformation gets a little more subjective, right? But did everybody and can everybody voice that they had transformation or like a tool that really made an impact on your life? Like those are some of the things that we're looking for. And so it's, again, at that point, the leader has already kind of said, hey, these folks are ready to go. I feel like they're good to go. And then from there, it's just, again, a second set of eyes to affirm that and go, yeah, I didn't pick up on it. You know, if somebody was sitting there and going, hey, I didn't experience any transformation and I never read my Bible, but you're saying they're ready to go and disciple other people. Well, I mean, that's an extreme example, but that's a truth of like, okay, why are we saying that they are ready to go? If this is what I'm hearing. So, and I'll also say I've never done a deployment party where I go, oh, this person is not ready. Like it's just a cool affirmation, making it a fun thing that we're actually kind of putting I don't know what it would be, a line in the sand, a stamp down that says, this is the day. You're ready. Let's go.
Okay, so there's a lot of trust with the leaders.
Yep.
Like you're trusting them that they've already checked box most of the stuff.
Yep.
And they've seen the transformation. Like I was going to ask, like what would be some red flags for the rep? Like, but you said, you know, if they didn't experience any transformation or read their Bible. I mean, I get it.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, if you've spent the time, right? So again, we're saying 8 to 12 months, but more possibly. And again, you can't voice what transformation is. That's a red flag for me. That's a hesitation because a lot of our tools are centered around that, like a transformation in an area of your life. And so if you can't voice that or even know what that means, that's a struggle. One of the questions is like your abide rhythms. What did it look like before and what does it look like now? And if somebody says, well, I wasn't reading the Bible and I still don't, what? You know, that's a red flag a little bit. Like it has no value to me. And I know these are extreme examples,
I was
but
like, say, is anyone stupid enough to say something like that?
Yeah. So I don't know that you would even make it to the point of deployment at that point, but, and I think we have leaders that listen to this. And so I'll use the opportunity to say this if they've made it this far in the podcast is like, this idea of, yes, we do give you a lot of trust. Right? Like we are trusting you with the method. We are trusting you with the language. We are trusting you with all of those things. And so really the deployment party rep is kind of a checkup on the trust a little bit. Like our deployment party reps are people that have led multiple discipling groups and are people that our leadership trust to then make sure we can trust our leaders, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the idea behind all of that.
Okay.
So, yeah. And again, I've never had a deployment party where I've had a big red flag. I think some of that is already worked out between the leader and the person who's not being deployed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Again, that's a whole nother podcast that we could talk about. The folks that are not deployed. But at this point, I think everybody knows they're in a good spot, good place. We just need to, again, affirm it. So,
yeah. All right.
I think it's that also, like from a scriptural standpoint, it's that idea of multiple witnesses more so than just singular witnesses.
All right.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, boom. Yeah.
And then they're deployed.
They're ready to go. And the hope is that they don't get lost in just a season of rest and complacency, right? But like they're doing it. They're making an impact and they're leading others and one way or another.
Do you think it's the job of the leaders to check up on them if they're becoming stagnant and not moving?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of tried to voice, or I'll even put it on myself, like I've tried to voice, like your person who led you is your person to go to, like to answer a question or whatever for your leadership, but also I think, we can put it on our leaders to say, hey, if a person you've discipled is in a place that they're not doing anything, you have the relational equity to go to that person and ask the question, like, hey, why have you not done this? Right. And so, and campus discipling leaders are also kind of, we've had those conversations as well of like, hey, if you have a person on your list that is deployed, but they're not doing anything, like that might be a chance to have a conversation with them and see what's up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right.
Okay. You got any more questions? Anything you're thinking? What do you think?
I don't think so. I feel like I'm questioned out.
Yeah.
I think I gave a lot.
You did. And again, you have, if you're curious how to do it, Katie has done it. She's got it.
Stop.
It's true. Now. I'm not trying to butter you up. It's true. Like,
I am definitely not the picture person to point towards, but
hey,
listen,
you're doing it right.
If you are like me and struggle immensely, come to me and I will help you struggle through it like I do.
There you go. That's perfect. Yes, that's it. That should be the heart of the church. Let's struggle through it together. Yes, I love it. It's so true. So true.
That's what I was telling. I have a friend who's about to give birth in like the next week or so.
Oh yeah.
And I texted her last night, and because she was on my heart, because I know like that week leading up to birth, you're like, especially on your first, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, like what's going to go down. And so I was like, I'm thinking about you, praying for peace, all of this stuff. And I was like, if you have questions, frustrations, anything with motherhood, I was like, if you want to talk, or, you want to grab a cheesecake and just be together.
That's right.
And struggle through it together.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. There you go. That's it. That's perfect. Well, with that, I think that wraps up this episode of the D3 Discipleship Podcast. If you have questions, you can send your questions to d3info@newcitychurch.com. What else am I saying? There is the website, d3pathway.com. If you're a leader and you don't know about that, or you need access to that, I would say reach out to your campus discipling leader for that information, and they can point you in the right direction. In addition to, if you're needing any of the resources, such as the guidebook or anything like that. So cool. I think a great conversation today. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeehaw.
Great.
Yep. So, for myself and for Katie Ketzner, we will talk to you soon. See ya.
Adios, muchachos.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that today's information was helpful and useful for your discipling journey. We would like to encourage you to subscribe, review, and share on social media. If you would like more information, check out d3pathway.com.